Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've got a stack of research on the desk today that is, frankly, a little overwhelming. We're not just looking at a company. We're looking at the digital equivalent of, I don't know, the Roman Empire.
That is a very, very apt comparison. We are looking at massive expansion, absolute dominance, and then a collapse that was just as spectacular and, perhaps just as inevitable as the rise.
We are talking, of course, about Yahoo. And for anyone listening who might be on the younger side, say under 30, you might know Yahoo as, that finance site or the email address my dad uses. Right. It feels like a legacy brand, something that's just always been there in the background. Oh. But the documents we have here, they paint a picture of a company that was, for a specific generation, the absolute ruler of the internet. It wasn't just a website.
Yeah.
It was the front door to the entire online world.
It really was. In the mid-90s, if you were going online, you were starting at Yahoo. There was no Googling something. You Yahooed it. And the trajectory we're going to trace today, from a hobby in a trailer at Stanford to a $125 billion behemoth, and then to a cautionary tale of lost identity, is honestly one of the most complex business stories of the last 30 years.
And we're going to cover all of it. The meteoric rise, the billions of dollars left on the table, and let me tell you, the what-ifs in this story are going to physically hurt to hear.
Oh, they are painful.
And then there's the identity crisis that just tore the company apart from the inside. But we're also going to spend some serious time on the darker chapters, the human rights violations in China and the security breaches that exposed 3 billion people.
3 billion. The China files are particularly heavy. It's a side of the story that often gets buried under the business failure narrative, but it's crucial to understanding the ethical drift that happened as the company grew desperate to, maintain its footing.
So let's start at the very beginning. It's January 1994, the dawn of the consumer web. We have 2 electrical engineering grad students at Stanford University, Jerry Yang and David Philo.
And they're supposed to be writing their dissertations.
Supposed to be.
Right, supposedly. But like all great tech founders, they are procrastinating. They're spending all their time surfing this new thing called the World Wide Web. And you have to remember, the web back then was tiny. It was disorganized. It was like a library where all the books had been dumped in a pile on the floor. There was no rhyme or reason to it.
It was the Wild West. You'd click a link and it would be dead. Or it would lead to something completely random.
Exactly. So they decided to build a card catalog. They wanted to make sense of the mess.
They started a list. Initially, it was called Jerry and David's Guide to the World Wide Web.
Catchy.
Rolls right off the tongue.
Very nostalgic, but they quickly realized they needed a better name. They settled on Yahoo. Now, there's a bit of a debate in the sources about the origin here, and it actually tells you a lot about the dual nature of the company right from the start.
I saw that. There's the engineering explanation, and then there's the literary explanation.
The engineering one is a classic backronym, an acronym made up after the fact to sound clever. Yet another hierarchically organized oracle.
Which is incredibly nerdy, just peak Stanford engineering student.
Oh, completely. But that phrase, hierarchically organized, that's the key. We have to come back to that because it defines their entire technology, their whole worldview.
It really does. But they didn't really like that explanation, did they?
No, Yang and Philo insist the real inspiration came from Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels. In the book, a Yahoo is this rude, unsophisticated, uncouth creature.
A brute.
A brute. And apparently Philo is from Louisiana, and the term was used as slang there for a sort of rural, rowdy Southerner. They liked the rebellious, anti-corporate vibe of it.
Which is so ironic, considering they were at Stanford, the epicenter of what would become the most corporate environment on Earth. But it fits the 90s web aesthetic. It was playful. It wasn't sterile yet.
Not at all. And that hierarchically organized part you mentioned, that is the single most important thing to understand about early Yahoo. It wasn't a search engine. Not really.
It was a directory. Let's
Yeah.
break that down for the listener, because the distinction between a directory and a search engine is arguably the seed of why Yahoo eventually lost the war.
Think of it this way. A search engine, like what Google is today, uses a crawler, a bot to scan billions of pages automatically, and uses an algorithm to rank them based on keywords and links. It's automated. It scales infinitely.
Right.
A directory is manual. Jerry and David were literally sitting in a trailer, reading websites and deciding, okay, this goes under arts, humanities, literature.
So it was a curated experience. It was human editorial judgment. Someone actually looked at the site and said, yes, this is a good site about basketball.
Precisely. And in 1994 and 1995, that was actually superior. The web was full of junk and broken links. You didn't want an algorithm giving you 10,000 random results. You wanted a human to tell you, these are the 5 cool basketball sites that actually work.
That human touch was their value proposition.
Hmm.
And the market went crazy for it. They incorporated in March 1995. They went public in April 1996. And the stock chart looks like a vertical line.
It's the definition of the dot-com boom. It's the poster child. The stock rose 600% in 2 years. By January 2000, at the peak of the bubble, it hit an all-time high of $118.75 a share.
And the valuation?
They were valued at roughly $125 billion.
$125 billion. Like, put that in perspective for the time. That was larger than Ford, Chrysler, and GM combined.
For a company that made lists.
It's just unbelievable.
Well, by then they had morphed, and this is the first major strategic pivot. They stopped just being a directory and decided to become a portal.
The portal strategy. This was the buzzword of the late 90s. Everyone wanted to be a portal. AOL, Excite, Lycos.
Everyone. The idea was simple. We don't want you to just search and leave. We want you to live here. They wanted to be the operating system of your life. They bought Rocket Mail to give you email. They built Yahoo Finance, Yahoo Sports, Yahoo News. The goal was to maximize time on site.
Stickiness. That was the metric everyone was obsessed with. How long can we keep a user on our pages?
Right. Because if you are looking at ads on Yahoo pages, they make money. If you search for something and leave to go to another website, they don't. This economic incentive keeping people trapped in the Yahoo garden is what eventually blinded them to the next revolution.
They were building a walled city while the rest of the world was building highways.
That's a perfect way to put it. Which brings us to section 2. The what ifs. The missed opportunities. I looked at the numbers in the outline and I actually winced. It's painful to read.
Okay, let's start with the big one. The one that everyone knows, but the details are even worse than you remember. Let's talk about Google.
It is brutal. It's a masterclass in how success can make you risk-averse and blind to disruption.
So it's 1998. 2 other Stanford students, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, have a project called Backrub, which they eventually renamed Google.
Right, and their technology is fundamentally different. It's not a directory. It's an algorithm that ranks pages based on citations, how many other pages link to it. It's like a peer review system for the web.
And they know it's better, so they go to Yahoo to pitch it.
They essentially said, hey, we have this algorithm. It's better technology. Do you want to buy it?
A price tag.
$1 million.
$1 million for Google.
And Yahoo said no.
Why? I mean, even in 1998, $1 million for a tech acquisition was not huge money for a company like Yahoo. It was a rounding error.
It wasn't about the money. It was about the philosophy we just discussed. The Yahoo executives looked at Google and said, wait, this engine works too well. It gives people the answer they want instantly, and then it sends them away to that website.
It violated the portal strategy, the stickiness metric.
Exactly. Why would we pay $1 million for a tool that reduces our user retention time? They saw efficient search as a bug, not a feature. They wanted you to browse the directory, maybe check your stocks, maybe read a headline. They didn't want you to leave.
That is a staggering misreading of human behavior. People wanted answers, not a trap. They wanted the highway, not the walled city.
It's one of the great strategic errors in corporate history.
But it gets worse. It doesn't end there.
Oh, no. It gets much, much worse.
Okay, so fast forward to 2002. The dot-com bubble has burst. A lot of their competitors are dead, but Yahoo survived. Google is growing fast.
Yeah.
Yahoo's new CEO, Terry Semel, he thinks, okay, maybe we should buy them now.
Right. He realizes they might have made a mistake, so he enters negotiations with Page and Brin. But the price had gone up significantly.
What are they asking for?
The Google wanted $5 billion.
Okay, still a steal, considering Google's worth nearly $2 trillion today. But $5 billion is a lot more than $1 million.
It is. But Yahoo was still a giant. They could have done it. But Semel, he balked. Yahoo offered $3 billion.
They haggled. Over the company that would define the next 2 decades of the internet, they tried to save a couple $1 billion.
They haggled. Semel thought $5 billion was too rich. He held firm at $3 billion. And Google's founders, who frankly weren't crazy about selling anyway because they knew what they had, they just walked away.
They let Google go over a $2 billion difference. It's hard to wrap your head around that level of short-sightedness.
It's the classic error of valuing a company based on its current revenue rather than its strategic threat. They didn't see that Google wasn't just another website. It was a utility that would underlie the entire digital economy. They were looking at the balance sheet, not the future.
But the missed opportunities weren't just about buying, they were about selling, too.
Oh, yes. The other side of the coin.
Fast forward again. It's 2008. Yahoo is struggling. Google is absolutely dominant. And a different giant comes knocking. Microsoft.
Microsoft was terrified of Google's dominance in search and advertising. They saw it as an existential threat to their whole business. They needed a weapon to fight back. So in February 2008, Steve Ballmer, the CEO of Microsoft, makes a hostile bid.
And the number.
$44.6 billion for Yahoo.
Nearly $45 billion in cash and stock.
A massive premium over their stock price at the time. It was a lifeline, a golden parachute, a chance to be part of something huge and competitive again.
And Yahoo said,
Jerry Yang, who was CEO at the time, said, it substantially undervalues us. They rejected it.
they said $45 billion wasn't enough.
They held out for more. Microsoft actually bumped the offer to around $47 billion, but Yahoo wanted $50 billion plus. They leaked memos. They tried to rally shareholders. It was a soap opera.
They got greedy or delusional.
They were delusional. They still believed they were the ruler of the internet from 1999. They didn't realize the market had moved on. Microsoft got frustrated and walked away.
And looking at the notes here,
Yeah.
the stock crashed immediately after.
It fell off a cliff. The shareholders were furious. And as we'll see later, when they finally did sell the core business, it was for about 10% of that Microsoft offer. A tenth.
This is a perfect lead into the identity crisis. You touched on it with the portal concept, but the sources highlight this content internal war. Is Yahoo a technology company or is it a media company?
This was the schizophrenia that killed them. In Silicon Valley, engineering is king. Google was an engineering company. They solved hard computer science problems. Yahoo, especially under Terry Semel, who came from Hollywood, he was a Warner Bros. Executive, started acting like a media conglomerate.
They thought content is king. Let's buy content.
Right. So they went on these massive spending sprees to buy content and platforms. In 1999, at the height of the bubble, they bought Broadcast.com
This was Mark Cuban's company.
for $5.7 billion.
$5.7 billion. Explain what Broadcast.com was for context, because the price tag seems insane even by bubble standards.
The idea was putting radio and sports broadcasts on the internet, which sounds great today. We all stream Spotify and watch live sports. But in 1999, most people were on 56K dial-up modems.
You couldn't stream anything. You'd click play and then wait 10 minutes for 30 seconds of scratchy audio. It was buffering hell.
Exactly. They paid nearly $6 billion for a technology that the infrastructure of the internet couldn't support yet. It's widely considered one of the worst acquisitions in the history of business. The service was eventually just shut down and absorbed.
And then there's GeoCities. This one hits me right in the nostalgia. I had a GeoCities page. I think it was dedicated to Star Wars. It had the starry background and the spinning under construction GIF.
Everyone had one. It was part of the early web experience. Yahoo bought GeoCities in 1999 for $3.6 billion. At the time, it was the third most visited site on the web.
So pause here. They owned the place where millions of people were building profiles, uploading their own content, and forming communities around shared interests.
Yes.
They owned the precursor to social media.
They had Facebook before Facebook.
Right.
They had MySpace before MySpace. They had the users. They had the network effects. But because they viewed themselves as a media portal, they didn't know what to do with user-generated content.
How so?
They tried to wrap it in ads and restrict what users could do. They treated it like digital real estate that they own rather than a living social network that the users owned. They failed to invest in the tools, the community features. They just saw it as a place to serve more banner ads.
And they let it rot.
They did. It became a spam haven filled with pop-ups. It looked dated. And then in 2009, they shut it down and deleted everything.
That's a digital tragedy, just erasing millions of pages of internet history, people's first websites.
It is. And it proves they didn't understand the shift from Web 1.0, we talk at you, to Web 2.0, you talk to each other. They made the same mistake with Flickr, the photo site. They bought it, neglected the community, and let Instagram eat their lunch.
And even later, much later, in 2013, they tried to buy their way back into cool with Tumblr.
This was under Marissa Mayer, who we will definitely discuss shortly. They dropped $1.1 billion on Tumblr. The goal was to get the young, hip demographic that had abandoned Yahoo years ago.
Did it work?
Not even close. It was a total culture clash. They tried to integrate it into the Yahoo ad machine, and the user base revolted. Tumblr's culture was very specific, very artsy, and very anti-corporate. Yahoo was the ultimate suit.
And Mayer famously promised not to screw it up.
And then they proceeded to screw it up. They couldn't figure out how to monetize it without alienating the users. They had to write down $712 million of the value just 3 years later. It was another failure.
So we have a pattern here. Buy something hot, misunderstand why it's hot, force it into the portal model, and watch it die. Meanwhile, what was happening with their search technology? The thing they were supposed to be doing.
It capitulated. This is the surrender.
Yeah.
From 2000 to 2004, they actually outsourced their search to Google.
Wait, I think a lot of people don't know this. So if I went to yahoo.com and searched for something during that period, I was seeing Google results.
Yes. It said powered by Google in small print at the bottom of the page. Yahoo was effectively paying its biggest rival and training its own users that Google provided the best answers.
That is strategic suicide.
Yeah.
You're literally advertising for the company that's killing you.
It's unbelievable. By the time they tried to build their own engine again, buying companies like Inktomi and Overture, the brand war was over. Google was a verb. Yahoo was a dinosaur. In 2009, they gave up entirely and signed a 10-year deal with Microsoft to use Bing's engine.
So Yahoo became a zombie search engine, a Yahoo skin on a Bing body.
Correct. They became an ad sales team. The technology company had ceased to do the technology. Their engineers were just maintaining old systems. All the talent left.
This brings us to the savior era, Section 4. The board realizes they are in deep, deep trouble. They need a visionary. In 2012, they hire Marissa Mayer.
And this was huge news. I mean, front page of every paper. Mayer was employee number 20 at Google. She was a geek celebrity. She was young. She was a brilliant engineer. She was obsessed with user experience. The hope was she would turn Yahoo back into a tech company. She would bring the Google magic.
But the cultural transplant didn't take.
It was a violent organ rejection. She tried to impose Google's intense, high-performance, data-driven culture on Yahoo's sleepy, bureaucratic 9-to-5 workforce.
And the first big controversy was the remote work ban in 2013.
Right. At the time, tech was moving toward more flexibility. Mayer went the other way. She revoked work-from-home privileges for everyone. The memo leaked, and the internet just exploded.
What was her justification?
She argued that innovation happens in the hallways, in the cafeteria. You need serendipitous collaboration. Some of the best decisions and insights come from hallway and cafeteria discussions, is what the memo said. And frankly, she wasn't entirely wrong. The reporting suggests Yahoo had a lot of ghost employees who were technically working from home but not doing much actual work.
She was trying to shake things up.
She was trying to shock the system back to life. But the execution seemed punitive and out of touch.
It was. But the bigger, more controversial issue was the QPR system, Quarterly Performance Review.
The stack ranking, or the bell curve.
Yeah, this sounds brutal.
It's a system where managers were forced to distribute their team members across a curve. A certain percentage had to be at the top, a certain percentage in the middle, and a certain percentage had to be at the bottom, labeled misses.
Even if you have a team of 5 superstars, one of them has to be labeled a miss.
Someone has to be the loser. And if you were at the bottom for a couple of quarters, you were often fired. It was a way to manage out the bottom 5–10% of the company every year.
That completely destroys morale. It means I'm not competing against Google. I'm competing against the guy sitting next to me.
Exactly. It kills collaboration. Why would I help you if your success pushes me down the curve? It led to massive internal politics, managers trading employees like baseball cards to fit their curves. And eventually, it led to lawsuits.
The discrimination lawsuits.
This was unexpected. Usually in tech, we hear about discrimination against women. But in 2016, a prominent editor named Scott Ard sued, claiming Mayer was systematically purging male employees.
What was the basis of that claim?
He argued the QPR system was subjective and manipulated. He had stellar reviews for years. Then, stunningly, under the new regime, he's rated as a miss and fired, and his role is given to a recent female hire he had managed. Another employee, Gregory Anderson, filed a similar suit, claiming he was fired because of his gender.
And the lawsuit alleged this was a pattern.
Yes, that the rating system was being used as a cover for illegal mass layoffs, and that Mayer's personal preferences were influencing who got fired. Whether the bias was real or not, it paints a picture of a toxic, cutthroat environment.
It sounds like chaos. But while the employees were fighting each other, a much darker storm was brewing regarding user safety and ethics. This brings us to the most disturbing part of the Yahoo story.
It really is.
Section 5, the dark side. I think a lot of people know about the business failures, but the human rights stuff, this is heavy. Let's talk about China.
This is where the identity crisis became genuinely dangerous. Yahoo wanted to do business in China. It was a huge growing market. But to do that, you have to play by the Chinese Communist Party's rules. And the extent to which they played along is startling.
Enter the Shitao case.
Shi Tao was a Chinese journalist. In 2004, the Chinese government sent out a secret order to media outlets telling them not to cover the 15th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre.
Standard censorship.
Right. Shi Tao used his personal Yahoo email account to send a summary of that government order to a pro-democracy website based in New York. He was blowing the whistle on censorship.
Thinking he was anonymous.
He thought. The Chinese police went to Yahoo Holdings in Hong Kong and demanded the user details for the account that sent that email. They wanted to know who the whistleblower was.
And Yahoo.
They handed it over. They provided the specific IP address, the account information, and the timestamps. That data led the police directly to Shi Tao's office computer. He was arrested, convicted of leaking state secrets, and sentenced to 10 years in prison.
10 years. Because Yahoo gave up his IP address for sending an email.
And he wasn't the only one. There was Wang Shouning, a dissident writing pro-democracy essays. Yahoo handed over his data, too. Another 10-year sentence.
How did Yahoo defend this? What could they possibly say?
At first, they played dumb. They issued statements saying, "We just complied with a lawful request from a government. We didn't know the nature of the case."
Was that true?
It didn't hold up under scrutiny. Later, during congressional hearings in the U.S., it came out that the police paperwork, the warrant itself, actually cited inquiry into suspected illegalities of inciting subversion. The state secrets element was right there.
So they knew. Or they should have known.
Human rights groups were furious. Jerry Yang was hauled in front of Congress and berated. One congressman, Tom Lantos, told him, "While technologically and financially you are giants, morally you are pygmies." The committee concluded Yahoo was either inexcusably negligent or deceptive in their testimony. They eventually settled a civil suit with the families of the dissidents. But it was a profound moral failure. It showed that they were willing to trade their users' freedom for market access.
It destroyed the reputation of the tech community. But in terms of damage to the average user, the security breaches were even wider in scale.
Oh, absolutely.
The hacks. We are talking about the biggest data breaches in the history of the internet.
By a long shot. There were two main events disclosed in 2016, right when Yahoo was in the middle of trying to sell itself to Verizon.
Just the worst possible timing.
The worst. First, in September 2016, they admitted a 2014 breach affecting 500 million accounts, which was, at the time, the biggest hack ever.
And then?
Then, a few months later, they dropped the real bomb. They'd found evidence of a different breach, one that happened way back in 2013. Initially, they said it affected 1 billion accounts. But later, in 2017, after the sale, they corrected the record. It affected 3 billion accounts.
3 billion. That is effectively every single Yahoo, Flickr, and Tumblr account that existed.
Yes. If you had a Yahoo account, you were hacked. Names, emails, phone numbers, birth dates, hash passwords, and in some cases, even unencrypted security questions and answers.
Who did it? Some kid in a basement.
No. This was not random. The 2014 breach was attributed to state-sponsored actors. The U.S. Department of Justice indicted 2 officers from the Russian FSB, their spy agency, and 2 criminal hackers they hired to carry out the attack.
So this was espionage. They were targeting specific accounts.
They were.
Yeah.
Journalists, dissidents, government officials from the U.S. and other countries. But to do that, they cast a net that caught everyone, and the method was fascinatingly technical and terrifying. They didn't just steal passwords, they stole the proprietary code Yahoo used to create cookies.
Explain that.
Yeah.
We all know cookies are the things we click accept on, but what do they actually do in this context?
A cookie is like a temporary ID badge. When you type your password, Yahoo's server gives your browser a cookie that says, "This is the host, he's logged in, and he's allowed to be here." That way, you don't have to type your password every single time you click on a new email. It remembers you for that session.
Okay, that makes sense.
The hackers stole the cookie minting machine. They could forge their own ID badges for any account they wanted. They didn't need your password. They just showed up to Yahoo's servers with a forged badge, and Yahoo said, "Welcome back, come right in."
That is terrifying. It's like stealing the master key to the hotel. You can get into any room you want, and the front desk thinks you belong there.
It effectively stripped all security from the system for the accounts they targeted. And because they hid it, or more likely because Yahoo's security was so bad they didn't even know about it, for years, the damage was compounded.
This must have impacted the sale price to Verizon.
Massively. Verizon was in the process of buying them for about $4.8 billion. When this news broke, Verizon almost walked. They eventually renegotiated and shaved $350 million off the purchase price.
A $350 million penalty for bad security.
And honestly, they were lucky the deal went through at all. The reputational damage was immense.
It seems like every time we turn a page in this research, there's another controversy. The outline mentions shark fin soup. What is this?
Locks, I know, it sounds so random. But it ties back to their investment in Alibaba. Yahoo owned a huge chunk of Alibaba, the Chinese e-commerce giant. It was actually the smartest financial move Jerry Yang ever made. That stake kept the stock price up for years when the core business was failing.
But Alibaba was selling shark fins on its platform.
Right, which is an environmental disaster. Shark finning is brutal and has decimated shark populations. When environmental groups called this out, Yahoo executives initially shrugged. They called it a cultural practice and said they couldn't interfere with Alibaba's business.
Which, again, just sounds incredibly tone-deaf and cynical.
It goes back to that lack of a moral compass. Eventually, under huge pressure, Alibaba did ban the sales, but Yahoo looked like they just didn't care about anything but the bottom line of their investment.
And there's also paid inclusion. What was this about?
This was earlier, 2004. Yahoo started letting companies pay to be included in the search index. Not just ads on the side, but in the actual organic search results.
That breaks the cardinal rule of search. It's supposed to be church and state. The results are supposed to be the best results, the most relevant, not the ones who paid you.
Exactly. It completely undermined user trust. If I can't trust that the link you're showing me is actually relevant, why am I using your engine? They were so desperate for revenue, so obsessed with hitting quarterly numbers, that they sold their integrity. They eventually discontinued it, but the damage was done.
And lastly on this grim list, we have spyware.
There were allegations that Yahoo partnered with adware companies to serve pop-ups and install software on users' computers. Former employees claimed they would literally dial up the pop-up frequency at the end of the quarter just to hit revenue targets.
It's the same pattern over and over. Treating users like a resource to be mined rather than customers to be served.
It all leads to the end. Section 7, the fall. The sale to Verizon finally closes in 2017.
The price for the core internet business, the mail, the sports, the finance, the ad tech, was roughly $4.48 billion.
Let's just pause on that number. $4.48 billion. Microsoft offered $44.6 billion in 2008. They destroyed 90% of their value in less than a decade.
It is one of the greatest destructions of shareholder value in modern history, an absolute collapse.
And Verizon, bless their hearts, tried to save it. They merged it with AOL.
Which was like tying two rocks together to see if they would float, and they called the new entity Oath.
Terrible name, just a truly awful name.
Nobody knew what it meant. It had no brand recognition.
And it didn't work. The synergies they hoped for never materialized. Verizon eventually gave up too. In 2021, they sold 90% of the media group to Apollo Global Management, a private equity firm, for $5 billion. They essentially got their money back and washed their hands of it.
Private equity usually means one thing: cost-cutting and stripping assets.
And restructuring. We saw major layoffs in 2023. They cut 20% of the staff to streamline the ad tech division. It's the classic private equity playbook.
They are still here. That's the twist. We are talking about them like they are dead, but I check Yahoo Finance multiple times a day.
And millions of people do. Yahoo Sports is huge for fantasy leagues. Yahoo Mail still has hundreds of millions of active users. They aren't the ruler of the internet anymore, not even close. But they are a profitable kind of zombie media company.
And now they're pivoting.
Of course. Like everyone else, they're pivoting to AI. They recently acquired an AI news app called Artifact, which was created by the founders of Instagram. They're trying to find relevance again.
So as we wrap this up, what is the lesson here? Is it about bad leadership, bad technology? What's the core takeaway?
I think it's about focus and identity. Yahoo never decided what it was. Google knew it was search. Facebook knew it was social. Apple knew it was hardware and software integration. Yahoo tried to be everything: a library, a newspaper, a TV station, a tech lab, and ended up being nothing specific.
They were the jack of all trades, master of none on a global scale.
And they suffered from what you could call the first mover disadvantage. They built the first version of the web. But when the web changed to algorithmic search, to social, to mobile, they were too weighed down by their old model to pivot. They were defending a castle that no one wanted to conquer anymore because everyone had moved to the city next door.
It raises a provocative question for me. In tech, we worship the pioneers, the ones who get there first. But maybe being first isn't the advantage we think it is. Maybe it's better to be second. Watch the first guy break his legs and make all the mistakes, and then build the better bridge.
I think history supports that. Google was the second mover in search, after Alta Vista and Yahoo. Facebook was the second mover in social, after MySpace and GeoCities. The Apple iPhone wasn't the first smartphone by a long shot. History suggests the fast follower often wins the war.
A sobering thought for all the innovators out there. Well, that brings us to the end of the Yahoo Deep Dive.
What a wild ride, from the top of the world to a cautionary tale.
It really is. And I have a challenge for you, the listener. If you are old enough to have one, try to log into your old Yahoo Mail account today. Treat it like an archaeological dig. Read your emails from 2006. See what you were up to.
It's a time capsule of your former self. It can be cringeworthy but fascinating.
For the love of God, change your password. And turn on two-factor authentication, because as we learned today, your cookie might already be forged.
That is some solid advice.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.
Goodbye, everyone.